Good morning.
So this is an ad hoc meeting. I'll just very briefly turn this over to the city clerk for just clarification that this is not a regular council meeting and we would not be following the regular rules. There's not.
This is not PMA.
Exactly. So it's not OPMA, and I just want to say that we do have council member Klein on, and but Lisa Scott is a member of the committee. So just before we begin, just clarifying that. And then there's 4 items that we are going to discuss tonight. Everything on this agenda packet relates strictly to the radio station and its request and its partnership with the city in order to move these forward. And they're sort of listed in order of difficulty, just in case you haven't seen this. The initial items are pretty straightforward and pretty easy. And then we get sort of slightly more complicated as we go into the power projects in both Cook-Bayless Beach and Ocean Shores. Jen, I don't know if you had an opening statement you wanted to make, or do you want me just to launch into it and then?
It's launching.
Okay, so we will launch into it. Item 1 on the agenda tonight is the electrical shed. And this is the shed that is in front of KOSW, the radio station. When it was put in for storage. And it was later determined that it would require electricity in order to support the needs of that shed. On item 1, you can see that we received 3 bids that were put out by Ocean Shores by Jenny, our purchasing agent. We had a low bid from MB Electrical Grays Harbor in the amount of $3,267. We had another bid that was sent in, and that was the lowest bid by Schumacher Electrical for $3,946. And then a final bid from Buck Electric, which came in substantially higher at 9,000. Where this is at 9,000. See that there, Jenny?
I have it here.
It's
9,000.
$9,028. Sorry, it went back a page. So on page 11. So we are. What do we need to do at this point now?
I have a limited works agreement that's also on a bid packet, forwarding it to MB Electric, and the mayor is authorized up to $50,000 to enter into a contract. So we're good to go on this one. So.
Do council members have any questions, any discussion items?
My only question is the money that this is going to cost has already actually been budgeted and approved by the council.
That,
Yeah,
okay.
it has.
That's what my memory
On that.
confirming.
I like I'd just like to go in there and get, tentative start date, once you get that.
As
stuff
soon as they
going
give
back.
me the paperwork. I
No,
know
no,
they-
not you.
Oh,
The electrical contractor.
I think that's what you're well saying though.
they can't start the work until they give me their insurance, and
Right.
I've already verified their contractor verification, city business license and all of that, so. They just can't do work until we have insurance,
No, I understand.
so
What I'm saying is when they get all that done, they're gonna tell you, or should tell you
that
when
will
they're gonna
be
get
to
out there.
work with Butch. What
Uh-huh.
works with their schedule,
Okay,
between Butch and the contractor's schedule.
thanks.
Anything else on the shed? This one seemed pretty straightforward to me, but if there are any other council questions. I don't know, Lisa, can Lisa hear us? I just want to make sure that you can. I don't know if you can hear it, but can she respond?
I can hear you and I have no questions on this.
Okay, all right, so that's pretty straightforward. And Frank, I don't know if you want to just give more detail as to the need for this, because my detail is pretty quick, but why suddenly it would require electricity, what you're hoping to do with it.
Well, the electricity, low wattage heater, just to keep the moisture out of there, because they're gonna be storing electronic equipment in there.
Right.
And so that was the point for the heat. Couple of strip lights and a couple of plugs, 3 plugs in there. Just something simple. So if they gotta work on something, they got a little small bench there and a light.
No, that's
So it's real simple stuff, just one circuit, and that's why I was surprised that it came in as high as it did.
I was curious, there was talk that I heard that they would at some time need an air conditioner in there. Is that probable, possible, or?
No, not for that.
It's unlikely.
Okay.
You just need enough heat so that it's a dampness chaser, so that paper goods and electronic stuff that might be stored in there.
Okay,
Yeah, just a storage shed.
then that's a pretty easy one.
No running equipment in there.
That was the important thing.
That you might need some AC for,
Okay.
in the one up by the tower.
All right, the next one, on page 17, item 2 is the shed at Corpus. Now the shed does not exist, but it is equipment for the shed. And I assume we're just purchasing the equipment ahead of time, and then we will determine when we put it in the shed later. But it is equipment that is gonna have to go, you explain to the council members
Sure.
what this is needed for.
Okay, the shed or the equipment shelter, as we like to call it in the communication business, rather than a shed, is just a location where we can put the transmitting equipment, the radio receivers, transmitter itself, and that is just about all that exists in this shed. That's how I was able to get the footprint of the shed to be very small. It's only 64 square feet is all we're talking about, 8 by 8. And so it'll be the actual transmitter for the 88.9. There'll be a microwave receiver. There will be several communications receivers that are tied into the emergency alert system. I put together a little sheet that was shared for most of us here. And basically, that's about it. It's a very small standalone shed. We will have, I've asked, and it's in the budget for a small split system air handler so that we have a little better climate control within this building compared to the shed that's at the.
Okay, and this is actually less about the shed right now than it is the invitation to bid, and the bid that was brought back from Broadcast Supply Worldwide for the equipment that you mentioned that's there on the screen. It came to a total of $28,029. We have money in the budget for that, but we received only a single bid back. Is that correct?
Yes, I advertised in the paper as well as sent it to the 3 suppliers or vendors that we had received previous quotes from, but because of the threshold, anything over 15,000 has to be a sealed bid. So how that works is if it's budgeted, then we can do a PO. And there's the question is it part of that budget? Because otherwise, if it's not, then we have to take it to council.
Oh, yeah,
And
no,
what
no.
my concern would be there is we need to get it in the next council
Right.
because these quotes are only, this quote is only good for 30 days.
Right, so this quote will expire on March 15th.
Yes.
We have a council meeting prior to that. I was on, we got agenda setting? Who was on agenda
Yes, I
setting?
was gonna.
Yeah, you're on. So I brought this up, this is Richard knows. I brought this up with the agenda setting in case we decide, but I wanted to have the council discuss. You 3 discussed it before, so it's a placeholder right now. We can put this on the next council, but I just want to let you know, we only received a single bid for it, and.
And there is the proof that who I sent it to and they advertised it, so.
Who you send it to?
BSWs, SDMS and BGS. That's Broadcast Supply Worldwide. And then BGS is Broadcast General Store. And then SDMS, I'm not real sure, Marty, what that stands for.
I don't.
But that's, you're talking about just equipment.
They're just a vendor.
That's just-
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I thought you were talking about wiring.
No, it's just the equipment that's
Just-
listed. Those 4 items that are up there, or not, yes.
And
Well,
these-
there's more than
And
4
these-
individual
right.
items, yeah.
I did send it to you to confirm before we went out to bid
Yep.
that this would be this, okay.
And it is presently within the bid, or within the allocation from.
Correct, so this is just a political question. I know we all often like to receive 3 bids, we did not. If you're comfortable moving forward with it on a single bid, we can put it on the agenda, but if you're not, then we can send it out for rebid. So that's the 3 of you, Lisa, Frank, Richard.
My opinion is if I need my car fixed and there's only one garage in town, I'm gonna go to that garage. And I agree with Frank that whenever possible, we want multiple bids, but Jenny has done what she can do to get multiple bids. And I think that getting this thing off the ground, getting work done, is not worth losing this bidding cycle. That's my opinion.
Councilmember Scott,
It's such a small amount. Did we, before putting the bids out, did we have an estimate of what we thought this was gonna cost?
Yes, actually, this is a portion of the total that was approved by the council. for this project and does not list all of the minutia of items that is included in the approved total. These are the larger items that we need to get orders on right away. There are a lot of little small connectors and things like that that will come along in the installation portion of the process. And they're fully encompassed within the budget that was approved by the council. So these, like I say, these are like the hot ticket items to make it so that we could get this thing on the air, and then we can add the rest of it as it comes in.
No, I appreciate that, and I know we budgeted, but my question was for this particular item, did this come in what we thought it was gonna cost?
Well, you saw the earlier bids when we already had
I-
selected or not selected, but
When we
reviewed them.
split them all up into three, I
Yeah.
did not compare.
Well,
And the only reason I ask is because I generally, yes, you'd like to see more than one bid, but if it came right in of what we thought it was gonna cost, I'm fine with that. If this came in like triple the cost of what we thought, I might not be.
This
No.
Freesol transmitter, I can tell you was, pretty close to that 13,000.
almost all of the bids, we had previous to the time that it was determined that we needed to do the sealed bid approach. We had received bids from the primary three vendors that Jenny described. And in reviewing those, they were all very tight. I mean, they were, especially with the largest ticket item, which was the transmitter. I think they were within $50 or something like that. Another. So once we packaged them, then all of a sudden the cherry picking kind of a concept went away. So it's all very, very close.
Sure, I feel comfortable then.
Yeah, if it's within your budget, I'm good with it.
Okay, so just to make it clear, I will then move to put this on the agenda at the next council meeting, and council will vote on it. That's the will of our committee here. Perfect, okay? The first two, like I said, are kind of easy, and that starts getting a little more technically complicated. And that means, yeah, it gets a little technically complicated, both from a technical perspective, which Marty will have to explain, and technically complicated from a position that you will have to explain as our purchasing officer.
Yeah.
So the next item is on page 24, 25 of your packet. And this is Harrington Aerial. It's for a dollar amount of $5,673. And then Marty, why don't you tell the council members what this is for? This is for equipment that will go on the tower in Ocean Shores.
That's correct. On the existing tower that is in the City Works yard, there is going to be an addition of a small, about 3-foot diameter, style microwave dish and a coaxial transmission line that just comes down and goes into the Public Works generator building, and where we have some other radio station equipment located. So it's just simply a little microwave dish that gets oriented towards the tower at Copalis, and the transmission line that connects into the microwave transmitter. So it's a very short list of items. One microwave dish, one transmission line, that's it.
Now,
So this is labor only, $5,600, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And
miscellaneous.
The equipment that is not included that would be part of this public works project, from what I understand, is the quote that's behind it from BGS. And there's two items on there. One of them will go to the outside tower. One of them is part of the install that Harrington would be doing. And it's for $868, or with tax, it would be $946.99. So that equipment would be added to this labor cost from Harrington.
Harrington's not installing anything except the antenna and the line
And
coming
where's
down,
the-
and it just stops right at the edge of the building.
So where's the antenna?
The
Is that
antenna is the
this-
microwave dish.
That's this antenna from BGS? That's right behind it.
Just
that I
like,
just said, the eight.
page
Yeah.
25.
Yeah,
page 25.
but that quote has two antennas, but only one of them going on the tower in Ocean Shores, the other one's going outside.
Right.
So to this $5,600, we need to add
Okay,
$946.
they're not gonna obtain the antenna.
No, we're buying it, but it's still part of a public works. When you look at a public works
Okay.
project, it's material supplies, but you can't split,
Okay,
you know. So when it comes to public works rules, we have to include all costs, not just labor. It's not a labor, you know,
It's labor and equipment.
it's
Okay.
labor and equipment. So
So the actual
whether
total
we're
is,
putting it,
so you're gonna carve out one or two transmitters.
one goes, that we'll talk about
Okay,
when we talk about the
Okay.
outside towers. So this project right here
Okay.
is gonna add another $1,000, not that we're paying Harrington, but the city will have to buy to provide Harrington to install.
right.
Okay.
Additionally, there will be a few of these items that are on page 28, which are the coaxial cables themselves,
Okay,
itself, I should say. So we're gonna supply the coax. Right? And
So
we're gonna
that
supply the
cost has to
antenna,
be
and they're gonna
included.
supply the labor for those two
Yeah.
items. So there are gonna be a couple little jumpers in the order of $50 or $100 that are not part of the antenna quote itself.
yes.
Okay.
now, was there an issue with the bid process on this yet, or this is?
Well, that's what I'm gonna get to,
Okay.
because we have two. This looks like two projects, but it's one project.
Whatever you guys.
So we have to add all of this together. We can't split it up and say, well, this is only $5,600. We follow the $5,600 public works rules. It's all we have to make
Here's
sure
your own notes.
it's all included. So if we move on to granted, this estimate is still from October, so we gotta make sure that this labor is not gone up. We get into the outside tower. And you're looking at $28,000 for labor,
And by outside tower, just so people know what you're talking about, the
Copalis.
Copalis piece,
the Copalis Tower.
just in case people are confused with that.
Right.
What does that mean?
And then the equipment that's included on that is one of the antennas from BGS. We have PSI, which is a one bay medium directional antenna that came in at 861730. I emailed the propagation systems rep, Paul Kelly, because it says freight to be determined. So we need to know, you know, he came in with 1850 on that. So when you add tax and all of that, this quote's $9,400, which is equipment that goes on that. Then we move on to the 123E wireless, that you were saying some of this goes to the other project.
Yes.
Some of it goes to this project, and it was 2,900. And then I got the 946.99, which was that quote from EGS. So when you add this all together, it goes over 50,000. Like I mentioned earlier with the electrical, anything over 50,000, the mayor has to take the council.
Right.
Now, my issue here is we got one quote. Per RCW 3523-352, we can contract with them without calling for bids. If it's less than 75,500 for a single craft, meaning. You're one craft here, it'd be like if you had plumbing and electrical, that would be a multi-craft. I don't like to use this process because it's not competitive, but it's not, you know, we can still do it. It's just one. It's gonna need to go to council. I'm not sure they're gonna like one quote. Or we could follow a small works roster process. Now, I don't really have anybody on my roster who does this kind of work, but I have a list here.
That is in the package. Too, on
That-
page 30.
That's the tower contractors. These people do tower work.
Some of them do.
Harrington is on there. Well,
A couple of them are out of business now.
well, I checked them and they all have contract, I verified their contractors license. And they have all, well, I don't know if I did see them. I highlighted it and you can't see it in my copy.
Okay,
We did Day Wireless, Legacy Communications, Steelhead Communications, Pilgrim and Harrington.
Mhm.
So what I could do is reach out to them, have them fill out our small works roster, and then we ask them to bid it. But my issue with that is I don't want to just take this scope of work and say, "For these other contractors, can you bid?" Because I don't know if Harrington's spelled out exactly what they're gonna do, you know? So in order for me to submit a, a bid, I want to make sure I'm asking all contractors for the same type of work. So I'm not getting some quote for 20,000, and somebody else is 35, but the 35 has everything on it,
Yes.
So,
Could I just interject that I got. And, let's see, no, Harrington was the only, installer, that I contacted because. To my knowledge, they are the only state, group that has done in Washington State anyway, broadcast installations in particular. And there are some peculiarities of broadcast, which we know, compared to like conventional two-way radio. So Gay Wireless does two-way radio, microwave things like that. Traditionally, they have not done broadcast. So rather than go down that road of putting out to all these various vendors, I just knew the one that I've successfully used in the past and been very confident in their work.
well, and if we put a clear scope of work out there, if they can't do the work, then they don't bid. And if we only get Harrington, then hey, we've done our due diligence, it goes back to the same thing with the electrical,
Sure.
hey, we put it out there, you can't force people,
Well,
to
and-
do it, but we can also put it in the paper if you want to expand, there's nothing that says, that's more stricter than we need to be.
but we did have a secondary option, right? And that's the city could procure the equipment in one bid and then. do the
Or,
rest.
yes, that was another thing too, where instead of us splitting it up where we bid out the labor, which because if we do bid out the labor, or we decide to do, just Harrington, then we still have to take to council the equipment costs too of that. That 50,000 isn't just labor, it's, a portion of it is the equipment and a portion of it is the Harrington thing, if we did Harrington. If we went out to bid, we could also make it that scope of work. We could list the equipment you want, even that we were getting quotes on and say, hey, City of Ocean Shores wants said equipment installed, so that you're getting the equipment too. You're not getting two different kinds of equipment and that guy's low bid because it's equipment you really don't want,
Sure.
so that, then we're taking the whole thing to council too. If we have them, I know you and I have discussed that it's not usually the tower contractors part to procure the equipment. They're just more in it for the labor and all of that. The thing is they probably won't get any more of a discount than we would, So, but hopefully we'll get more of a competitive, labor costs too. So this way, the whole bid package, labor and equipment, we take the council, or we can say, just this is who we want to contract for the labor, and then the city is going to procure this separately.
And these are estimates and they're about 6 months old, these estimates. So right, so
Yeah.
that's another.
The
fact.
equipment has been recently updated, but I know you reached out to him in October, then I reached out to him, and now this would be another third time. So
So.
we would have to get that equipment updated.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we go around and entertain council questions and get some council ideas? We got a couple options on the table. And you can answer the purchasing related questions. Marty, you can answer sort of the technical questions, because if you say this company doesn't do that, or it's the only company, I have no knowledge, I have no way of, knowing that. So go ahead.
It sounds to me that it's to the city's advantage to buy the equipment and then hire an installer. And it also sounds to me like that is the easiest course of action to get this all done in the most timely manner. Am I correct? or-
And the city administrator is what I recommend, but I'm not sure if that what you would.
Well,
purchasing
we
there.
go out to bid, we collect the bids, we get the quotes, the timing of them all coming in together and then taking it to council is more challenging, I think, if you do it separate. But if, they were to procure it, then it's like, okay, we have their bid, we have the cost of the equipment, we take it to council, here's the whole cost, one contractor's doing it all. They're buying it and installing.
May I interject?
Yeah, please.
So in the general broadcast industry environment, it would be extremely unusual for the party that's doing the installation to provide the hardware equipment that is being installed. It's not done. They're not in the business of knowing the differences of antennas. Once they get the antenna and the mounting arrangements and the things that they have to work with, they got it, but they don't know how to spec it. Even if I give them all the specs I need, I don't know if I would be real comfortable. It's extremely unusual to do that.
So what I'm hearing you say is that it's to the city's advantage for us to buy the equipment. And let Jenny do that. And then I want to back up a step. And you talked about all these little pieces and parts, elbows and coaxes. And should that be included in what we're buying? So that just becomes one bid. We're buying all of these little paper you have with all those little bits and pieces.
We'd be-
Cost a few $100.
Buying from several vendors.
And to streamline the process, and give the installer. Here's all the bits and pieces.
Right.
You put it on the tower. That seems to me to be the most efficient process. The other question wiggling around in the back of my head is how important is getting this done sooner rather than later? And if we complicate it, how much later does that delay? Because getting it done sooner seems to me means that the system goes in operation sooner. And we could go on operation now, if it was all up there, and that would be an advantage. So make me smarter here.
Well, I agree. I think it is in the best interest to, and it may be a little bit of a slower process. I don't know the routines of that, but to have city purchase equipment and then have an installer do the install.
We could do that. It's just the timing of everything coming in, getting it to council all. on
And
the
what is
same
your
time.
time frame? Why should we discuss it?
Well, okay, so the critical time frame is that rent starts becoming due June 1st of this year at the new site. So we want to be on the air before that as much as possible. And that's why it's kind of painful process of now we're really
Yeah.
close to the wire on it. So there are some items that are a little longer lead time, like the directional FM antenna is a custom and design. They have to design it, they have to build it, they have to model it, run a test on it, do a report to the FCC that it's going to meet all the criteria, and then ship it. And so that's a time sensitive item. Most of the other equipment pieces pretty much off the shelf. I don't think we have anything that's in a critical supply line right now. So the antenna is probably the primary focus on time sensitive items.
Got the PSI one?
Yes.
And this rolls together items 3 and 4 in this packet,
Yes,
right? So
Yes,
it
it
would not be two separate items. They would be one item.
yeah. I don't have any issue with us doing the equipment and all of that. Like I said, it's just a timing thing. The PSI does say the proposal is contingent on exact tower specs and price is subject to change. So are we pretty confident that this price that we've given the exact tower specifications? So I mean,
Well, I've provided them with the tower design that was given to me from becoming an existing tower. It's been there for 18 years or something. From American Tower, I've supplied that information to them, so they have that. I mean, and it's reliable information. If they need some specific added details, they would just get a hold of me and say, well, what's the dimension of this or whatever it might be. So that part is pretty painless.
Councilmember Scott. Councilmember Scott,
Sorry, no, let Richard go. I'm listening, so.
So what I think I'm hearing is that you have the detailed list of everything, and you could go out this afternoon if that was the circumstances and say, this is what I need to go and buy.
yes,
So we're not complicating the issue.
Yeah, I reach out to PSI, DGS and BSW are pretty much the three vendors. Well, and then the 123 E-Wireless. Get updated quotes. And then hold them until we get the quotes or whatever. We still have to get back to the labor side of it, whether we're gonna just use this contractor, and take the council that we only received, from one contractor, or if we're gonna do a small works roster.
So I'm getting a little bit by lane here perhaps, but I see us getting a bunch of shipments in of pieces and parts. Where are we gonna put them until they actually go on the antenna? And like I said, that's out of my lane. And
Let's wait on that. We have answers to that. That we
That's
can.
all I need.
Councilmember Eldon.
Okay, so I think you should buy the equipment.
Okay,
One of the things with contractors, sometimes they do get a little better price, but they mark everything up they sell.
yeah, that's the one thing that I thought about. They're not gonna get it really a discount, more than us, because like Marty says, they're not in that. So they'd probably charge us the same as what we buy for, or the hassle market up, so.
If you give them a list of material, you should be able to get that back in a couple of days.
Yeah.
What the cost is gonna be.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna order it until we get council's approval for the whole,
Oh, I understand that.
yep.
And then Marty, you saying there's just one vendor that does this type of work?
The installation company.
Yeah,
There are a couple of them,
Broadcasting.
but Harrington's the only one that does broadcast work in at least Western Washington, if not the whole state.
so we might be stuck with that.
Okay.
on
Well,
that deal.
according to this guy from,
Yeah,
that I
even
spoke
another-
to, communication towers, I even said, do you install antennas on radio towers? And, he said he's more of a consulting engineer, but that they do have, and I did full contractor verifications on these people, so they all have Washington state licensing, and they've done the public works training, they've done jobs for other locale, I reached out to my purchasing group,
But they all have specialties. The contractors do things that they.
Well, my question is, if we would have to put this back out anyway, does it just hurt? I mean, we're gonna send this back to Harrington,
we
correct?
just get an updated quote from them if that's the route we're gonna do.
Maybe I'd recommend you can reach out. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I guess, so what's what is it you're looking for feedback on, whether or not we want the whole thing to come to council or whether or not we want it piecemealed back to council?
All has to go to council regardless. It's all.
Yeah,
over
but how do you, is that what we're deciding on, is whether or not you want it to come as a whole? Or if it
Yeah.
comes,
But it sounds like we've already, the council has given us the sort of direction that we will. Purchase the equipment. And that will just go out as a standard bid process. that we-
Well, no, I'll just collect quotes on
Yeah, that's
that,
what I mean.
but I'm not gonna
Okay.
order it until we get council approval for the equipment and the labor installed.
Okay.
So everything we're spending on these tower upgrades, both towers, we're buying equipment separate though.
And the comment about parts and pieces, that's gonna happen, that'll happen. When you hire somebody to do the install, they're gonna run into certain situations, they're gonna have to get certain straps or brackets or whatever. And that'll be an additional, but very smaller
Right.
cost.
Okay.
So you can't really buy that stuff ahead of time, Richard.
It's like when I go.
The situation demands that you have to use certain things to get the job done. And you don't really know that till you get into it.
And the same thing goes after the stuff that's on the tower is done. When we, as the volunteers, will do the equipment, put it in the racks and all that stuff. That's where we run into the needs for little jump cables and
Yeah.
connectors and things like that. So
So Chris, my question to you, Marty, is it sounds to me like you have personal experience with the Harrington Company.
Yeah.
And you know that they have done work at the quality that we want accomplished. And the other vendors were kind of flagging out there.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that it just makes sense to go with what you know, rather than take a chance. That's what makes sense to me.
I agree to the point, though, that Jenny, if you wanted to contact all those other potential vendors, see if they have broadcast, particularly FM directional antenna, which is very critical in this matter, installation experience.
So what, repeat
Sure,
everything.
Yeah, we just want to make, or I'll send you.
Okay. I just want to make sure I get technical terms, you know, so,
I'll send you.
yeah, thank you.
Okay,
So it's just how we wanted, if we wanted to do the whole package, you know, and take it to council, or if we wanted to just kind of split it up and then take it to council for the whole split.
I guess how much time are you gonna give them to come back with a bid? You
Uh,
might have
before-
to do labor, might have to do the equipment separate, just because what Marty's saying is that FM antenna needs to get going.
So you mean if I'm reaching out to these other people, couple of days? And then if they don't respond, then I just need it's a matter of how fast Harrington gets, the updated quote to me. I don't
Okay.
think that's gonna take a long
I
time
was
because they
thinking-
already have the information.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if you put the whole thing back out to bid. Usually.
If it's a small, if we were to send it out to contractors, at least a week or two, I mean. If they're gonna be coming from like the Seattle area or wherever they're coming from, not to drop everything to race out to Ocean Shores and give them a few days to do that and then go back and, get their numbers together. If we decided to get quotes from other contractors.
so my question would then be just, if we order this equipment, is Harrington gonna say this is the equipment we need? Or are they gonna come back and say, well, I mean,
They don't care. They say, you give us the equipment you want to put on the tower.
okay,
That's the way these tower guys work.
all right, and you're confident, that's something, you're the one who's confident. This is exactly what we need. Okay, all right, just wanna make sure.
But I won't order it until council says okay.
They-
Then I'll do a PO.
13th is our next meeting, right?
13th is our next meeting, correct?
March, yeah.
I'm not sure we
But
did
but
everything.
this won't be ready by the 13th.
No,
This one won't be ready by the 13th. The first one will. First
yeah,
one.
we're gonna get the electrical done tomorrow and then I'll do the equipment. PO on the 14th, because I think council's on the 13th, right?
Yes, correct.
So I'll do the equipment purchase on the 14th. And then,
That's what I'm getting at. We can bring the equipment to council.
yeah,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so yes, now I see what you're saying.
that's not part of Harrington's install.
So we're going to amend the agenda
Or the shelter equipment.
then? We're going to amend the agenda to add that as an item.
If you don't have it to me before Wednesday next week.
Okay.
and-
Didn't you put it in there today?
But only put it in the shed. I only discussed it.
Well, that's the only one we're doing. We're not gonna do the Harrington equipment
Mm.
that we're buying
The one we
until.
talked about. is the
That's
one
got-
we're doing.
Yeah, we should take that to council along with the Harrington or install
That's what I was getting
together,
at.
because that's part of that project.
But you're ordering it separate. So if we get that needs to get rolling as quickly as possible.
We're gonna order it before council approves it.
No, we're gonna bring it to council.
But he wants to amend the agenda, so we add it on the next council
So you
meeting.
want to.
I want the equipment separate because this antenna takes a while to make.
So are they gonna know that the equipment?
Is it something like where we need a thumbs up from the council to move forward on this, and then we're gonna bring it back, or how does that work?
No, I would call 3 that were on agenda setting.
It seems.
They're gonna have a list of, the bidder that's doing the labor has a list of equipment, has the specs on the tower, they have all the information to bid the job, so we can order the equipment before you get their labor. bid.
So we're splitting it up, so council's gonna approve the equipment from Harrington on this next council, but then they won't approve. The,
We'll have to approve the labor at the next one.
it seems
I mean,
like we
just
put it all
because
together.
of timing, I don't know if Marty thinks that's, we're worried about getting this antenna built in on time. I'm just thinking the sooner we get that rolling.
Well,
the
they
better.
also need to communicate with Harrington to see, they may have booked up television and antenna installation in Spokane or something at the same time that we're hoping that they'll be able to help us out. We don't know. So sooner we can get a expected delivery date on the antenna and the transmission line and the 2 microwave antennas, Harrington can do their work and be done, or whomever was chosen for it, but they can do their work and be done, and the rest of the stuff can then come in and we can do it. But those are the 2, or the microwave antennas, the broadcast antenna, and the transmission lines, the 7/8 inch heliaxes for the tower up there, and the 1/2 inch heliax for down here. Those are 4 pieces that we need. The rest of the stuff comes in, we just plug it in.
Well, she's gonna put it all out to bid at one time, all your equipment. Right?
No, the equipment that's part of Harrington, we are just,
No, no, take Harrington out of the equation.
you're talking about the BSW that we went out to bid?
I'm talking about,
Yeah.
yeah, the equipment. He says that antenna is a long lead item.
That's not,
Okay, there,
the BSW bid,
it does not include the FM antenna. It is the FM antenna is by its own company. We're not buying it through a rep. That's why I went straight to the
Okay.
manufacturer. to get the best
Well, that
price.
wasn't mentioned here.
Well,
Since we've been.
I mean, it's
So-
not part of the VSW.
That, okay, then all I'm saying is you need that antenna and it's a long lead item. So.
that's the PSI that
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
We have antennas written on all of this stuff.
Well, yeah, and that is.
When we talk antenna,
It
it's
is
like,
confusing.
you talk about, it may be vendors, and even the vendors, it's like I have BSW over here and I have BSW over, or that's BGS here. So BSW is the one that is 28,000. It's gonna be approved by council on the 13th. I'll do a PO. That's the shelter equipment.
Sure. Okay.
The antenna he's talking about is the PSI.
Right.
So what are we bringing to council then?
I
That's
don't know.
not exactly my question, because now I've lost what we were going to cancel.
On the
Yeah.
search, taking the $28,000 bid we went out, that's the shelter equipment.
That is. Item 4.
Then the tower labor and equipment is still, that's where I'm a little bit confused, because we're gonna be buying the equipment that the tower contractor is going to be installing. And from what I understand, Frank, you wanna get it on this next council, that equipment, right? Because
Yeah, I listening to Marty, that antenna is a long lead item. So the sooner we can get that going, the better, right?
it says 6 to 8 weeks upon receiving order and technical details, yeah.
So I guess the question is, so if we're going with the equipment and we're putting that on the agenda, I think what I'm hearing is you'd almost like to wait and do the equipment and the labor together?
That's what I would like to do, because then we're taking to council the full amount. We know what Harrington or said contractor that's gonna be installing it, what their cost is, and we're gonna have the cost of the labor that we're gonna, or the equipment we're gonna be providing the contractor. So we'll have the whole sum. But if we take the equipment now, then we're gonna be splitting up and getting the labor approved kind of later, you know.
So
I
when do
mean,
you think you'll have that package ready to go?
Well, I could probably get these, PSI 1, 2, 3 and, BGS updated. Gosh, within the next week at the most, and then Harrington, I mean, they should just be able to update theirs. So I just don't know if we can make the 13th, you know.
But we might be able to just add it on at the last minute if you had it all come in next week.
I mean, that's,
6 to 8 weeks puts you into June for that antenna. Pretty close. If we wait to get that approved at the last
so we're
meeting.
gonna take something to council or buy it before council approves it.
No,
It sounds to me, and as you said, there's so many antennas floating around here.
Yes.
It's sounding to me that if we wait until the whole package is done, now, once we then take that to council, now it's still 6 to 8 weeks before we can get the antenna. And what Frank, I think, is trying to
They
say,
pay rent June 1st.
Yes.
Rent starts June 1st.
yeah, so let's get everything done that we can and get this antenna ordered so that the antenna gets here, so we can get it ordered. So I think that has to be split into 2 different motions to council, is what it sounds like to me. The other thing I wanted to say is Marty and Jenny have a conversation going, and the rest of us are throwing bits and pieces in, that I think is confusing the conversation. It might be beneficial if we take a couple of minutes here, let Marty and Jenny make sure that they both know that they're talking apples and apples and oranges, and not getting them mixed up, because I think all of our other comments are throwing kind of a confusion factor in.
I think we have two sets of equipment that are being bought here. One's for the tower contract and then one is for the shelter. To be placed in the shelter.
Okay,
So I don't know if we should say antennas or reference actually what equipment, you know, be specific.
things that go on the tower,
Yeah.
things that stay on the ground.
Yeah.
How about that?
You know, and so whatever works for you.
Yeah.
So.
So,
Yeah, let's not reference like antenna. The only item out of the tower contractor, stuff that's has quite a bit of a lead time is that antenna. The rest are like, the 1, 2, 3
oh, yeah,
says right on there 3 or 4 days and, you know,
well, that's why we chose. it.
BGS says to be determined, or no, shipped via when needed. So I think the only thing that's really is that $9,400 item.
Mhm.
So
So-
I guess what I'm hearing is that you would like to do it as a whole and don't know if we can make the next council meeting. And so if we don't, is delaying it to
The next one would be.
27th.
the end of March.
March
Is
27th.
that gonna be too late? I mean, I'm trying to figure out, we want to help you get what you need. So what do you need from us? If you want to do it as a whole, let's aim for the 13th and add it on if we can. If that's not
Okay.
gonna work, then we know it's gonna be the 27th.
I will aim for the 13th. I just, you know, I can't speak for how fast these people are going. to get back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I would prefer to do it as a whole instead of chopping it up, saying, okay, council, you're approving the equipment for the tower, but you're not gonna know the labor costs until the next council meeting, you know?
Well, we
Sarah,
could-
is that too hard to add that on at the very end? I know it's not preferred.
No, it's not preferred, but because all the talk's gone on, it might be different, but I can always request delaying the agenda by a day, you know what I mean, like give an extra
Yeah.
day. So there's always that too. Everybody just gets really finicky and not, it's not just for the councils, it would be for the citizens as well, when we're like adding
Things with
gobs
us
of
and-
paperwork on the day of. We have kind of established that that's not very fair. So that would be my only concern. Cause the council hasn't preferred that in the past either. But we could delay the agenda, which would give her an extra day at least to try and get it all on there.
So did we decide? We're just gonna do the Harrington because that is just them updating it, but if I reach out to these other contractors,
It won't be.
it won't work that way. So the only way this might work is if we just say we,
I'm happy with just reaching out just to Harrington. because
okay,
They've got.
then I
that's my-
think it is
that's
possible
my
we can
vote.
meet
There's
the
got two
13th.
council members here.
As
Okay.
long as these vendors, you know, can,
And what would be the final cost on that then, the Harrington? What would be the?
well, their quotes from October were,
Updated in January.
well, I have 10/19
Oh, okay.
and 19.
And we could articulate this all in the agenda bill too, like the Harrington, and if we choose to not do this one, then it'll take time, and we could put all that in the agenda bill, so it's very clear.
I'm just worried
That's what
about.
I was wondering, Sarah. I think that's a great thing, because we, you know, if it doesn't materialize, we can always pull it. But if we have it on there and just say we're waiting for updated numbers, this is what we have so far, seems to me at least you're getting out the pertinent information even to the public. And if the number changes at the last minute, we can update that agenda bill. Or just reiterate what that fee increases, you know, or decrease, that would be nice. Would be when we're on the floor at council.
That would work, as long as we like make it very clear and concise in the agenda bill, so there's something,
Yeah,
you know.
So. The thing that I hear is the biggest glitch right now is the tower antenna, that has to be special made. And so when you keep talking about trying to do it in one bill, why not one bill that is just the tower antenna? Get that on orders, because we know we need that, and then the other bill, and whatever time frame works, to include everything else. Did that make sense? We get the antenna that has to be built. And we get that on this next agenda so that that's in the mill. That work is being, they're machining that antenna. And then meanwhile, we wrap all these other stuff. Shoot for the 13th if we can, and if not, then for the 27th, and like Lisa is saying, that if we put it on for the 13th, all this other stuff. And then we say, well, we haven't got these final numbers, we can take it off and say, this portion has to come back next council. Does that make sense? Does that?
I think you're trying to shoot for it all, but at least have that one item that's gonna, we're still kind of splitting it.
I think that Councilmember Scott and I'll doing all or nothing, like, aside from the shed part, but that we're gonna shoot for all to get it done.
Yeah, that's what Jenny wanted.
Yes.
And you're able to do that, you think?
Well, we'll try.
Yeah, I'll get these
I
quotes
just want to, I want
updated, you know,
to staff.
if somebody's on vacation or whatever, you know, I mean. Be enough time, it's just updating a quote, you know, with Harrington, you know.
I'll write your agenda bills.
Yeah. That was what staff wanted. I would love to do, you know, that's fine. It seems to me we could prepare the agenda bill using the old quote and then let them know in the agenda bill that we are trying to get an updated quote. It may stay the same or it may change, and we'll bring the new number to council if we hear from them in time.
Yeah.
And remember, all of this is under the approved budget.
Yeah, but that part, that's good. So we will have to amend the agenda.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
no,
why?
mm-mm. Because we're just gonna take it all. It's all radio tower, so I'm just gonna wrap it all.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're gonna just incorporate it with the
I'm just
shed.
gonna pretend you just said all radio.
But they're, yeah, they're gonna know about the
Yeah.
28,000 shelter equipment and then
Yeah.
And then one other thing, Councilman Willis had asked about where are we gonna stash this stuff?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
That's gonna go into the shed.
Yeah, we need the power for it.
Yeah, my other question is there a plan? And I don't care about,
Okay.
is there a plan?
Yeah.
That was my question.
I don't think it matters. I think that's too far into the weeds for us. I don't know that we need to be concerned with that. That's more of a staff thing.
Part of in other places, but I don't need to go into that. detail.
Yeah.
We have more secure storage, so. Just put that way. Perfect. All right.
I think that's it.
You know what we're doing, and you know what we're doing, and I'm just gonna read the agenda bill when it comes out.
That seems fair, but it sounds like we have consensus from all three council members. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Then my only caveat is then, obviously, when I am presenting this, Marty, you are going to have to be my co-presenter. Because there's people who ask technical questions in the audience and I'm not gonna answer. So, okay.
So my only question now is, we're kind of wrapping up, when is the 8-week antenna being presented to council? You know, are we slowing down getting? the-
We're gonna shoot for the
Yeah,
13th,
we're shooting for
because in the
13th.
next week, I'm hoping to get this quote updated, which honestly, the quote for the antenna did not change in price from the October one. The 1, 2, 3 went up like maybe $30 or something like that. So I mean, it's possible they all stay the same. The only the one that could change is the Harrington one, because they might be subject to prevailing wage rates having changed. But they have the scope of work, they know what they're doing, it's just go in there and update.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of people getting, I'll let them know, you know, we're trying to get this on council by the 13th, if you could give me the quotes back as soon as possible.
Okay,
Sounds good.
wrap up our ad hoc committee meeting. We will be meeting again this month. And it will not be discussing radio tower issues, hopefully. But we will hopefully also have our new project manager that I'll be able to introduce to staff. Good. So
We have the date.
You want to-
I have not said that yet, but it will be somewhere probably